Hey, Harvest Kids, it's Mr. Carlos and Eddie. And Eddie, you have something to say? Happy New Year! Yes, Happy New Year, Harvest. Well, it's here. It's our first story of 2021, and it couldn't be a better story. It's actually called The Heart's Desires, and it's from the book of James, chapter 4, and the first 10 verses in the book of James. So it's an awesome story because going into the new year, we can think about those things that we want and think about if there's anything that we want more than God and really ask God to help us see those things and turn us to Him and wanting Him more than anything else. So, as Eddie reads the story, I hope God opens our hearts to receive whatever it is that He has for us today. So, Eddie, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Carlos. Okay, the heart's desires. Did you know that Jesus was not the only child in Mary and Joseph's family? The Bible mentions 4 brothers: James, Joseph, Simeon, and Judas. At first, Jesus' brothers did not believe he was the Messiah. But after his resurrection, Jesus appeared to James. And by the time the Holy Spirit came down at Pentecost, Jesus' brothers believed and were present, praying with the other disciples in the upper room. Of all the brothers, James played the most important role. He became the leader of the church in Jerusalem. Paul went to see James after he became a Christian, and later, when Paul brought the gift of money to the church in Jerusalem, he delivered it to James. God used James to help the church at a time of confusion. When the Gentiles first started becoming Christians, the leaders in the Jerusalem church didn't know what to think about it. But James, who led the council, spoke up to welcome the new Gentile Christians into God's family. James decided that the church leaders would write a letter to help the Gentile Christians understand how to live the Christian life. That short letter was the first letter the apostles sent to guide the new churches. Many other letters followed. James himself wrote a letter to teach Jewish believers who were scattered in different churches. God preserved his letter, and it became part of our Bible, so we could benefit from it too. In his letter, James asked his readers a question. What causes you to quarrel and fight with each other? That was an important question, since everyone has a quarrel or a fight every now and then. Ain't that the truth, Mr. Carlos?
Yeah, Eddie, it is.
We usually like to blame others when we get angry, but James knew our anger and sin came from inside our hearts. He said, the reason you fight is because you don't get what you want. Instead of loving God more, we love our things more, Mr. Carlos.
Yeah, Eddie, we do, unfortunately. We need God's help for sure.
When someone tries to take away what we want or keep us from getting what we desire, we become angry. It happens with little children, and it happens with adults too. James also said, you don't have the things you want because you don't ask God for them. Or, when you do ask, God doesn't give it to you because you want it all for yourself. James knew that we are supposed to love God more than the things of this world. If we love God most, we won't become angry when we lose something or have it taken away. The next time you get angry, think about what James said. Ask yourself this important question: what did I want that I did not get? Mr. Carlos, that's a great question to ask yourself.
I agree, Eddie. It is a good question to ask ourselves, to find out what it is that we might be loving or wanting more than God.
Good point. James wanted to help Christians know when they were drifting away from loving God to loving the things of this world. He wanted them to remember that Jesus is the greatest treasure we can ever have. Our salvation should bring us great joy and peace than any earthly treasure. Jesus said the things of this world will all pass away, but heavenly treasure will never pass away. If we remember what Jesus did for us on the cross, which is the greatest gift and treasure of all, the things of the world won't seem so important to us. Wow, Mr. Carlos. God help us.
Yes, Eddie, that's very well said. So thanks, Eddie, for that. And boys and girls, hope you enjoyed that story. As Eddie mentioned there, we really do need to pray always for God's help to help us keep our hearts fixed on Him and our desires fixed on Him as well. So I hope you enjoyed today's story. And until next time, never forget that you are loved.